Hey, what's up? It's Barrett Vickery and welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm talking about how you can create social and emotional wellness for yourself. When we create some social emotional wellness, we become happier, life becomes a lot more fun, and we can achieve success a lot more easily. One of the first concepts that I discovered on my own path to creating happiness for myself was this idea of three-part being. Now, you may have heard of this idea many times before in spiritual philosophy and personal development, or just out in the world. When I was 17, my family went through a really challenging and tragic financial challenge. We had just moved to a new city. I was starting a new school. My junior year of high school, I didn't know anybody. And all of a sudden, the family business that we had moved to this new city to create seemed to collapse overnight. It seemed that we lost nearly everything in the span of a few months. And this was my first real trauma. In the process of us seeming to lose everything, a lot of stress and anxiety came out of that very naturally. If you've ever had financial struggles, you know that they can be extremely stressful and extremely scary. At age 17, I didn't have the tools to deal with this challenge. The world around me seemed to be falling apart, and my mind was just completely getting away from me. I was constantly creating thoughts of fear and doom, essentially. This constant negative thought really took an emotional toll on me. I started to feel extremely unhappy and scared pretty much all the time. As a result of this negative emotion, I just had basically one desire. I just wanted to be happy. I just wanted to learn how to be happy again. My happy family that I knew for my entire life seemed to be falling apart as a result of material problems and material struggles. Not having enough money seemed to completely derail us. And I didn't want that for myself. I thought, if I can create happiness internally, regardless of what is happening in the outside world, then I will really own myself. I will be able to really own and control my life if I can just figure out how to become happy internally without needing material abundance, without needing a whole lot of money. If I can figure that out, then maybe I will have mastered my own happiness. Maybe I will have mastered myself. And so I went on this journey at age 17 of trying to figure out how to become happier. One of the first things that I did was I started to read the spiritual books and the personal development books in my parents' bedroom. I felt really drawn to go into their bedroom and look on their bookshelf and see all of these different personal development books that they had. And I started picking books off the shelf and just reading them. And I started to become a little bit happier as a result of that. I started to become super obsessed with these books because they helped to distract me from what was happening in our life around me. And one of the first concepts that I discovered in one of these spiritual books was this idea of three-part being. As a result of discovering three-part being, I started exercising more. I started meditating, and I started to become way, way happier. And so this is one of the most powerful concepts that I discovered really early on in my path that helped me to understand how to create positive emotion and how to really control your state of being. So let's dive into it. The idea of three-part being is probably something that you've heard before. All humans exist as a body, a mind, and a spirit, okay? We have a physical body that we're interacting in the world with. We're able to exercise and move around and dance and experience life in our physical body. We have a mind that is creating thoughts, creating ideas, and we always have this internal dialogue going on in between our head. And then lastly, there's something spiritual about life. There's something deeper going on here. And throughout the entire history of humanity, we've developed religions and belief systems and all different types of ideas and explanations of what this thing is, this spiritual realm of existence. And so you've probably heard this idea, the three-part being. We exist as three separate and distinct parts. Now, the really key thing for me in understanding this idea when I was first on my pursuit of happiness, trying to control my emotions, was I learned that all of these parts are influencing each other all of the time. And one of the most important things that I learned is what the spirit is communicating to us with. So we have a body and mind. It's very tactile to understand the body. You have a physical body. If you drink or eat something that doesn't feel good to you, then you start to feel sick. You have a mind, right? You're creating thoughts. That's pretty tangible. You are aware of the mental self-talk that you're giving yourself. But I had never heard this idea that the way that the spirit communicates to us is through our emotions. The way that our spiritual self communicates to us is through our emotions. So in the same way that your eyes are transforming vibration into an image, in the same way that your ears transform vibrational energy into sound that we can understand, we are able to understand what our energy is doing through our emotion. And one of the ways that this was explained in one of the books that I was reading is that emotion means energy in motion. So we can think of our emotion as the direction that our energy is going, okay? And so these ideas here really helped me to start to build a foundation for becoming happier. Because when the world seemed to be falling apart, I didn't have any tools or skills to control my emotions. My emotions were all over the place, just basically depending on whatever was going on in the outside world, I would take on that same emotion. And that seems natural, but I didn't have a way to stop this. I didn't have a way to control my emotion at all. And so anytime my mind started to create negative thoughts, I would start to feel really bad. But the thing that I discovered with the three-part being is that when we change what our body and mind are doing, we can control our emotions. The central understanding here is that emotions do not cause thoughts. Emotions are a response to what the body and mind are doing. So, emotion is a response. Emotions are the energetic response to what the body and mind are doing. When we make choices with our body and with our mind that are more in alignment with our higher self, we feel positive emotion as a result of doing that. One of the first things that I started to do when I began to understand this idea of three-part being was exercise. I started to move my body and take better care of my body. So, through exercising my body and integrating movement into my life at age 17, I started to become happier. And the reason I've been working out for almost 15 years now, 10, 15 years almost, the reason I've been working out for so long is I enjoy looking good, but the main reason that got me into it is because I understood and I started to realize that exercise was an emotional conditioning tool. So through physical conditioning, we can create emotional conditioning. One of the ways that I dealt with this trauma that I was experiencing in my family's financial situation was that through exercise, I was able to reduce the negative emotions that I was feeling and feel a lot better about everything that was going on in my life. And so this was the first tool that I started to use. I got a gym membership for Christmas when I was 17 years old. And I was the youngest kid in the gym. I would go in there and lift weights and stuff, and I started to feel happier. I got so excited when I started to experience this. I became obsessed. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling happier. Like I'm finally able to control my level of emotion. This is exactly what I was looking for. The second thing that I started to do when I began to understand three-part being as a concept was I started to meditate. I started to take care of my mind and control my focus and my thoughts. When I first started to meditate, I would literally just sit in my room on a chair and I had no idea what I was doing, and I would just sit there quietly and try and pay attention to my breath, or like see what my thoughts were doing and observe my thoughts. Just this simple act of taking a pause in my day started to improve my emotions. I started to control what my mind was doing. And so when the world seemed to be falling apart around us and we felt like we were in a state of tragedy, or like, another big bill would hit or something really bad would seem to happen, it's the emotion in my house was kind of crazy. We started to feel really stressful. But I started to realize when I would control my mind, the emotion in my house and in the world around me didn't affect me as much. I didn't feel as bad. This made me so happy and so excited. I got so excited because I felt like, oh my gosh, I can control and influence the way that I react to things. This was a huge deal to me, guys. It was a huge deal to me at age 17 to start to understand these concepts. So the key here is to realize that all of these pieces are very connected. Our body and mind are creating our emotions. Our emotions are a response to what the body and mind are doing. When we act more in alignment with our higher self and our natural self, we feel better. So when we eat healthy food, when we get enough sleep, when we drink enough water, when we take care of the physical body and really make sure that we're practicing healthy habits, we will feel better emotion as a result. That is because emotion is a response to what the body is doing. When we practice positive thought processes, when we practice gratitude, when we're in a state of appreciation for what we have, we feel positive emotion because emotion is a response to what the mind is doing. It's an energetic response to the energy that you're putting out into the world. Okay? And so through our thoughts, we can create positive emotion. This is by choosing and becoming aware of what our thoughts are doing. Anytime that the mind starts to create negative thoughts really fast, it's like, oh my gosh, everything is falling apart. I don't know what's going to happen. Oh my goodness, I'm not good enough at this. I can't do this. All of that mental energy creates negative emotion. Emotion is a response to what the mind is doing. Notice too how connected the mind and the body are. When we start to create these negative thought processes, oh my gosh, I can't do this, I don't know what's happening. Notice where you're breathing. We're breathing really high in the chest. You also, if you were to take a brain scan and look at your brain chemistry, you'd start to release a bunch of cortisol by breathing high into your chest and through these repetitive negative thoughts. Okay? And so the body and mind are affecting each other all of the time. When we start to lose our mind and start to get into these more negative thought processes, what happens? We start emotionally eating. Okay? Our body starts to crave unhealthy foods. And the mistake here is that most of the time we think that our emotions are causing us to eat unhealthy, or we think that our mind is causing our emotions are causing our negative thought processes. It's really about controlling the body and mind. If we can control the body and mind, we can control our emotional state of being regardless of what is happening in the outside world. I hope that you guys find this idea of three-part being super, super interesting. This was one of the things that changed my entire life when I was 17. If you find this idea interesting, please share this video with a friend who you think could also benefit from this idea of three-part being. And remember to take care of yourself, because the key to developing happiness is taking care of the body and mind. When we control our own habits, when we control our own mental state, we can become emotionally happier as well. All right, y'all, have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me for this video, and goodbye.